Welcome to the Video Testimony Project. Tell us
Thanks,
your
man.
name.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Cade Thompson.
Hey, man, it's
And
awesome to have you with us.
So good to be
We
here.
want to just glorify God by
Yep.
sharing people's testimony, sharing what God's doing in their lives.
Yeah,
And
man.
you being, passionate about God, wanting to share Him with music and stuff. We want to know, what's God done for you? How's He working in your life? What's He been up to?
Absolutely. Yeah, so my name is Cade Thompson. I'm from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and I moved to Nashville, Tennessee 4 years ago, right outside of high school, and I was raised in the church. My mom, she was in ministry, so for me, the church was kind of like my second home growing up. But as I began to get older, I was, 8, 9, 10 years old. I actually started coming to church camp out here in the Black Hills, which is really cool that I'm out here with you right now. It was a church camp called Camp Kinship. And it was around that same time in my life where I started asking the questions like, who is God, and like, what does this mean for me? And I grew up hearing about Jesus my whole life, but as we know, that doesn't mean that anything changes unless it really hits our heart, And it was the last night of camp when I was 10 years old, and the pastor on stage put out an invite and said, hey, if there's anyone who wants to give their lives to Jesus tonight, I want you to come up in front of the stage. And that was a key moment where everything really shifted for me. And to be honest, like for the longest time, I really struggled if I had a story or if what that meant for me, because I praise God that I never fell away into certain things that you can hear of those crazy stories growing up in church. But my story is that God saved me from those things, and He put me on a different path. And it doesn't mean that path was easier. It just meant it means there was a different cost and a different sacrifice. And so after that same time, I started really getting heavily involved with music, and I started writing songs. And I started trying to tell my friends about Jesus through the power of music in middle school, and that was where my path looked different. And it came with a cost. It came with people maybe not understanding what it meant to follow Jesus, but I had this deep passion inside of my heart to tell my friends and to tell my peers about this Jesus that was not just meant to be inside of me, but was meant for me to tell the whole world about. And that's my story of how I got started. And fast forward, when I was 16 years old, I made my first trip to Nashville, Tennessee. And I had a producer that took a risk on me that said, hey, I think you maybe got something. So I came to town, was wide-eyed, had no idea what I was doing, came to town. He believed in me and started setting me up with writing sessions, started introducing me to record labels, and I started making all these trips down there. By the time I was 18 years old, I moved down there right outside of high school. I got an apartment, and a couple months later I signed a record deal, and it's been a wild journey since. But if I can encourage anyone watching this right now, I would encourage them that your story matters. I think, being so young, there's a lot of story I have left to live in life, but I know that I have a God that walks with me in the middle of those storms, and that's the hope that I can rest in. And the best story of all is anyone that gives their life to Jesus, And so my encouragement would be, you don't have to go through the craziness of this world to feel like you have a story. Your story matters. Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You got anything about what God's been doing in your life lately? What He's doing these days? How He's moving?
Yeah, man. It's being on the road a ton is very interesting. It's a different schedule. I get to meet so many people and hear so many different stories, and I think I'm just kind of right now in this transition time of my life. I just moved into a new apartment in Nashville. I'm super excited about that. And just a lot of transitions been happening, and I've really had to learn what it means to trust God. Growing up in church, we hear that all the time, like, oh, you just gotta trust God. But when you actually have to live it out sometimes, it's like hard, being 22 and being in that kind of adulting time of life, paying bills and all of it. But what has helped me remain steadfast and remain grounded is finding those rhythms and being in the details. It talks about in James, faith without works is dead, And so my prayer is that God would help me to be faithful with the little things, so that way I can carry much. And that's what I've been learning in life.
Thanks for sharing.
Thank you, man. I love what you're doing.
Appreciate that. I hope that a lot of people get to watch this and they're blessed by what you have to say.
It's an honor.
I think your story resonates with a lot of people. Honestly, I think I don't have a story. I was saved when I was a kid. I don't have anything to say, but that's not true.
Yeah.
God's been working in your life. He's been working in everybody's life.
That's right. That's right.
It's awesome.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. Sorry, I just went full send.
That was awesome.
I didn't know if it was more of an interview style or. That's why everyone probably has a different flow. So
Yeah, that's cool. That's
great.
That's awesome.
Thank you,
Thanks.
man. I appreciate it. You
Thanks
guys
for
are
stopping
great.
by, giving us your time.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you, man. You keep